Hello and welcome to Google Digital Garage. Today's session is all about how you can find your career goals. Before we get stuck into this session, I just want to do a formal introduction and also go through some housekeeping. My name is Anthea and I'm one of the Google Digital Garage coaches, and I'm here to deliver today's session for you. In addition, I'm joined by the lovely Alison, who is our moderator for today. Now, Alison will be in the chat throughout the whole session, so if you have any comments or any questions, please do feel free to drop them into the chat and she will respond to them and also pass on any questions for when we break. A few things for housekeeping. Firstly, if you're having any problems viewing the webinar either right now or during the session, please do refresh your browser. This tends to solve most of the problems. If you're still having any issues with sound or video, please do leave and then come back, and that generally sorts out most of the problems. If you would like to interact, then please note that you will need a YouTube account. So for you to post into the chat, please do log into your YouTube account if you have one. And if you don't, there should be a button on there for you to set up a new account. You would have managed to go away, set up an account and be back before we get stuck into the session. So please do that now. We will be pausing as we go through each section. So if there are any questions that you want answered, please don't wait until we get to the pause. Drop them in the chat as soon as they come to mind, and Alison will consolidate them, gather them, and then pass them over. We're running this particular session as part of a wider set of Digital Garage courses, or sessions, sorry. So please do visit our website to find out if there are any other webinars that might be of value to you. We have a webinar on building a CV and a covering letter, which nicely follows this one. In terms of now you have an understanding about what it is that you want. How can you build a CV that helps to showcase and highlight some of your key skills and strengths that helps you to get that job? We also have other sessions that relate to things like digital marketing and things like that. So before we dive in, I'd like to wish you all a great evening and also to find out where you are tuning in from. So let us know in the chat, where are you tuning into this webinar from? And a shout out to anyone that I met over the weekend who I signposted to this webinar. So thank you for joining us today. And I hope this answers the questions that you asked me on Saturday or Sunday. Right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to look at what do you enjoy doing, what you're good at, and also what others value in you that you could turn into something professional. Now, one of the reasons, why do you need career goals? One of the reasons that you need career goals is to adapt to a changing market. Now, the job market is constantly evolving. Industries and technologies are advancing rapidly. And if you think about the pace where things are changing, there's new technologies coming in, there's new jobs coming in, and also there's jobs now becoming obsolete. So what does that mean for you? If you're able to adapt to the changing job market, it means it positions you to be in the best place to grab the opportunities as the market changes as you go along. So instead of having this career for life mentality, giving yourself the career goals enables that you can gain the experience in a variety of different organizations to help you achieve your ultimate goal. The next is for you to have a sense of purpose. Now, imagine walking down a street. You haven't decided where exactly it is that you're going, and you keep walking, and you keep walking, and you keep walking. At what point do you know that you've arrived? Unless you have a goal for your career, you will keep working and working and working. And you won't know if you've ever arrived at a career or a job or a business that you really enjoy doing. So having the career goal helps you to have that focus and also that sense of purpose that keeps you on track and helps you to make decisions that lead you closer to what it is that you want. Then lastly, this is about you taking control of your professional journey. Now, long gone are the days where anyone is going to come up to you and be like, Anthea, I have these great opportunities for you. Why don't you come in and here's a job? That rarely happens. So this is about you taking that initiative, being proactive and really seeking the types of jobs that you want and going after them. And by identifying the steps and the milestones that you need to reach those desired outcomes, it helps you to be on the lookout for the opportunities rather than allowing them to pass you by. So I'd like you to think about what it is that you, in a previous job, whether it's a paid opportunity, maybe you did some volunteering, maybe it's a personal project or a specific task that you did. When were you most fulfilled? Let us know in the chat. When do you feel like in any of the jobs that you've had that you were most fulfilled? And I want you to be thinking about what you were doing at the time. What was happening around you? And how much of that fulfillment was about money? Right, we understand that money makes the world go round, and you know, when you get a job and we've got bills to pay and all of those things. However, when we think about fulfillment and enjoyment, what were the elements of that job or task or activity that you were doing that you found to be the most fulfilling? I want you to think about that. When were you most fulfilled by a job? What were you doing? What was happening around you? And how much of that fulfillment related to money? So there are three key elements to a job that you find fulfilling. Now, the first is to look at something that you enjoy doing. Now, this is something that you find pleasure in. I like to look at it as no one has to remind me to do this thing because I enjoy it so much. And then the next thing is something that you are good at. So does this naturally play to your strengths? It's something that maybe you've tried, maybe you picked up a guitar and all of a sudden you realize you can play it really well. And then the third part is something that people value. Now, this is about understanding the market and whether there is someone somewhere that is going to be happy to pay you to do something. Now, when we think about this, we have to also look at the intersections of these particular categories. Now, if you imagine that you only did something that you were good at, then these are essentially practiced chores. If you only do something that you enjoy, then this is something you do just for fun. If you're only doing something for other people, then to be fair, that's possibly not good. Unless you're finding the right balance. Giving too much and only doing things for other people are probably not good because you're not getting that sense of fulfillment or reward from it. Now, I want you to think about this. If you're going to do something that you're good at and you enjoy, you would classify that as a skilled hobby. I enjoy it so much, I'm going to keep practicing and get better at it. And if you're going to do something that you like for fun and people would find value, this would essentially be a low-skilled job. You don't have to be great at it. It's something you enjoy doing and people will pay for it. This could be, I know several situations where people have, baked a cake or something like that. They did it just for fun, but people really enjoyed it and wanted to buy them from them. They don't want to set up a business. They don't want to be better at making cakes, but they have something that's low skill. They don't have to be great, but it's something that people will value and are paying for. And then lastly, what about you're doing something that you're good at that people value? Well, to be honest, it'll be a bit boring. I'm good at it, people value it, but I don't really find much enjoyment from it. So what we really want is that sweet spot in the middle. What is something that you enjoy, that you're good at, and that people value? That is what we call your ideal career. And so this is what we're going to explore in today's session. So I'd like you to think about what motivates you at work. Feel free to drop that in the chat. What motivates you at work? Now, before we deep dive into each of these circles, you need to understand what motivates you. I like to look at it as there's two types of motivation. So you can be motivated to get a job, even if you don't like the job, because maybe your motivation for having money at that time where you're broke or you need it to buy something is extremely high. But when you get that job, what's going to keep you motivated? What's going to have that keep that fire in your belly that will help you to turn up for work every day, to work on your growth, your professional development, build relationships with the team, get better at the work you're doing? All of these things will require an element of motivation. So think about some of the motivators that you potentially have. We've got somebody saying team. So understanding that being in a team, and Katerina, let us know if what element of the team is it? Working in a team, working on big things with a team, the individual relationships you have. Being very clear about that will help you to ensure that when you're looking for your next role, that you can ask questions to ensure that that thing exists. So remember, this could be recognition of your work. It could be benefits, bonuses. It could be a sense of purpose. Maybe that means that you want to work in maybe the not-for-profit field, because that's where you get that sense of purpose and meaning that you're giving back. Maybe it could be the company culture and a sense of teamwork, like Katerina said. So share in the chat some of your motivators. We've got Anurag who's saying sense of achievement, right? These are really important things to be aware of and ensure that they exist in the roles that you are going to go for, because without them, it's difficult for you to stay motivated, energized, and to continue to grow. So while money is definitely important, it's not enough to make the work fulfilling. It really isn't. And so you need these other things, as we said, the recognition, benefits, bonuses, sense of purpose, company culture, for you to kind of hang on to as you move through your day-to-day work. So what we're going to focus on for the rest of this session are things that are not money. So let's look at what you enjoy doing. So if we go back to that first circle, again, please make sure you've got something somewhere to take notes. I'd advise you get a blank piece of paper, and then what we'll do is start making a list of things that you enjoy, and I'll move you through the activities as we go. Now, the first step is to answer the question, what words or phrases describe the things you enjoy? What words or phrases describe the things you enjoy? This is important for you to articulate it. Sometimes we innately know that we enjoy things, but we don't write them down or say them out loud. So what tends to happen is when we go for a new job, we're not aware that these are things that are important for that job, and therefore we don't ask questions about it or don't make sure that that's included in the role that we go for. So what is it that you enjoy doing? So think about the specific tasks and activities that you enjoy, rather than trying to identify a very specific profession. So for example, rather than saying, I really want to be a teacher, you could say, I like sharing knowledge, or I enjoy helping other people. So in your first list, this is the first list we're going to create. I want you to make a list of all of the words or phrases that describe what you enjoy doing. So write these down, and I'll take you through a few examples that we have here. Helping others, the scenario I just gave you. Having ideas. I like brainstorming. It doesn't mean that I have to be a consultant specifically, or I have to go and do a particular job. I like being in the room with others where I can just pull off all of these different ideas that lead to something really great. Something secure and stable. Now, yes, we have mentioned that money is important, but it's not everything. But what may be important to you is that you know what work you've got coming, and you know how much you're going to get paid, and you know that this is not something that you will be you'll lose or be fired from or made redundant, or is a short-term contract. So you have that longevity. If that's important to you, really acknowledge that and own that. It could be that you want to work independently. I love working in teams, but I prefer to work alone because my creative process doesn't always align to when you work in teams and they want to get things done straight away. And I'm sitting there thinking, because that's part of my process. So working independently could be something that's important to you. Work-life balance. Maybe you've had a job that was maybe toxic and you've realized that I only want to give so much to my job so that I have enough time to do things I enjoy outside of my work. That's fine too. Being an expert. Is that important to you? Are you happy to go somewhere and be somebody who learns or learns from another expert? Or do you want to be the expert that everybody learns from? And then what about organizing people? Maybe you enjoy leading and organizing and structuring and all of those kind of things. And then lastly, it could be that you enjoy solving problems. So really here what we're thinking about is not trying to pigeonhole yourself into a particular role, but more think about the different elements that you enjoy. So again, there are some options on the screen for you to go, but really think about other things that could be important to you that you enjoy doing for yourself. The next part of that is, what are the phrases that describe what you do now or have done previously? So right now, you should have a list that describes the words or phrases that describe what you enjoy. And now what we're going to do is compile a second list of things that you have done or you do now. What have you done previously? Now, this could be in a job that you've had previously. It could be something you're doing now. The main point of this is that you've done it. So don't think about this list from a job description perspective where you have to write down your roles and responsibilities. Think about that list you've made earlier and write all of the things that you have done already from those previous jobs. So again, this is not about what you liked, but what you actually did. And I'll give you a moment to do that as we go through the same ones. So again, based on your previous list, have you helped others? Have you had ideas? Have you been in secure and stable work? Have you worked independently? Have you got a good work-life balance? Have you been an expert? Have you organized people? And have you been somewhere where you were solving problems? Again, you might want to come back to this exercise, but I'll move you through in the interest of time. So what you have now is a list that on one side highlights all of the things that you enjoy. And then on the other side, it's all of the things that you've done. Now, this is really interesting, this comparison, this last step that we'll look at. So where are they the same? Where do they differ? Now, if you find that your two lists are completely different, I also want you to go back to that question around motivation. So if you find that the things that you enjoy doing, you've done none of those things, think back to the job that you did none of those things in. How motivated were you? How fulfilled were you? Did you find reward from that? Because it's likely to be that without those things that you enjoy, you've done work, but you haven't enjoyed doing the work. And that's a really important distinction to make. And if, on the other hand, you've got a list where pretty much they are the same on both sides, things that you enjoy doing and things that you've done, then it means you're on the right track and you're finding the roles that have the elements that you really would like to have. Again, that's really important. Remember that everybody is different. So in a healthy workplace, there are going to be a range of different people who enjoy different things, and all of that is okay. The thing that we want you to do now is to really think honestly about and actively about what you really enjoy at work. And the more you are self-reflective, self-aware, and the more you do in terms of things that you enjoy, the more that you deliberately seek out those things and prioritize them over everything else. Again, when it comes to applying for a role, you can ensure that you have these elements in there because you know that these are the things you enjoy doing and will keep you motivated. And so this helps you to really focus in on a role that you are more likely to be happier in. So once you've got that idea, we know what we enjoy doing. The next part is looking at how do you want to enjoy doing that work? And so, what you're looking for here is identifying what you want your day to day to look like. Now, I understand that, especially since the pandemic, the way the working world has changed significantly to the point that remote working is now an option for you to filter on when you do a job search. So that's quite interesting because you need to know, do you want to work full time? Right? There are options for that. Yes, money does play a part in that, but ultimately, if you could have everything you wanted, would working full time be the thing you choose? What about part time? There are lots of people who are doing things like job shares and working reduced numbers of hours across a week, maybe even doing 5 days over 4 so that you have the full-time salary, but with a part-time feel and have that additional day to yourself to do whatever it is that you want to do with it. Then there is an option to go freelance. Now, this is something that you might prefer in the sense of being able to have your own clients, decide on the work that you want to do, work as and when you feel like it, decide that you want to go traveling for 6 months and be okay with that. So freelance does give you a lot of flexibility, but it also means that you have to work hard at getting and maintaining those clients and keeping that revenue coming in. And then you've got the remote or on-site working. So do you want to work from home, or do you want to come in, or do you want a hybrid option? Either of these are fine. There are no right or wrongs here. What we're doing is helping you to explore what you might want so that when you're looking for your next role, you can be clear about what you do and what you don't want. When we talked about the work-life balance, it's really important to decide on what you enjoy doing so that you can ensure that you have the balance you need to do things inside and outside of work that you want. Think about how much time and energy that you're willing to devote to your career without compromising your well-being and your relationships. What's important to you? Establish those priorities. I like to have a list of what I call non-negotiables. If the job doesn't have this, this, and this, I'm not interested. If it asks me to do this, this, and this, I'm not interested. And what that does is it means, yes, there are lots of jobs I may not apply for. However, it means that when I do apply for a job, I'm more likely to get something that aligns to my values, my beliefs, my desires, and the balance that I'm craving for in my life. And it's important to set realistic expectations. Okay, so I've just left uni, I've just left college, I've had a 1-year voluntary job. I don't have much experience. I've got 20 years experience. All of those, again, it's awareness. From where you are, what does that next logical step look like? Because it could be that you leaving university without any experience is not going to get you a 100K job, right? We may want it to, but the likelihood of it is very slim. So be realistic in what you are expecting to get and to give from the role that you are going for. And again, decide how you want your day-to-day to look in advance so that when you see anything that can potentially compromise that, you're aware that this may not meet your expectations. Once you do that, it gives you more power to control what you go for, and when you get the job, to ask the right questions so that you can ensure that you have exactly what you need to thrive in that scenario. So we're going to pause for questions and see if there are any questions coming through. Okay, it doesn't look like there are any questions. So again, we're just in the first section. So if anything comes to mind, please do drop your questions into the chat and we'll answer them at the next break. Now, let's get back to the second thing, which is something you are good at. What we're looking at here is your skills, right? To find a job or a career that you're good at, you need to understand, what do you bring to the table? Now, skills generally tend to be categorized by soft skills or hard skills. Soft skills are those personal attributes, characteristics, or qualities that make you good at doing something. And for the most part, they're not learned specifically. You can't necessarily teach somebody to have critical thinking, but you can develop critical thinking. And the way you develop that is by being in situations where you have to understand how to think critically. So it's like a muscle that the more you do things, the more it gets worked and the more you improve. And some of these are going to be natural traits and characteristics that you have, and some are going to be things that you learn on the job. Now, the hard skills are learned abilities that can be improved through practice, repetition, and education. So the more you code, someone can teach you about coding, you can code things, you can build things and learn from how things went, etc. That you can get better at. But both hard skills and soft skills can be improved over time. So when you're looking for a job, try to identify some of the skills that they need for that role and what you already have, and also some of the skills that you would like to work on. Because what that does is it helps you to go after the roles where you're able to develop those skills as part of your job. Now, what we have here is what's known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is about the fact that humans notoriously are bad at knowing their own strengths and weaknesses. We really don't get it. And our own individual perceptions of our strengths are not really reflected in our actual abilities. So we might think that, oh, as we get better at something, our feelings about how well we do, it does increase at the same rate, but really it doesn't. So this Dunning-Kruger effect is about the perception of our abilities and how they change as we gain more experience. Now, step one is a case where I've just started out and I'm completely new and I'm completely rubbish. I remember the first time I picked up a camera and I had no idea how to use the manual mode. So I took all of these photos, looking through the lens, thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. And then when I looked back at the photos, they were all blurry. They were all rubbish. They were either overexposed or underexposed. Okay, it's my first time. I know I'm going to be rubbish. That's okay. Now, the challenge that we have is that if we then learn a little bit more about something, all of a sudden we think we're fantastic because we're using where we were previously as the reference point rather than understanding how much more we need to learn. So when I picked up the camera the next time and I understood how to not get it blurry, I thought I was great. I was like, right, I'm ready for the limelight, folks. This is me. I'm ready to go and, do photography for award, ceremonies and everything. I really wasn't great. I really was not great. But my confidence outweighed my competence because I thought that I had gotten better. I got so confident in my skills, not realizing how much more I had to go. So then there's that time where, it can also work in the opposite way in the sense that right now we're at that point. I'm becoming better at something, but now I'm likely to underestimate how good I am. So this isn't about false modesty. This is about you being good at something, but not thinking much about it, waving it off. Oh, I've only just picked it up this year. Oh, I only started in the last few months. I'm doing okay. And so we end up dismissing how competent we are. And so what we really need to do is get to that final stage where we have become an expert and are now in a position to correctly assess or evaluate our abilities. And essentially what that means is that in order for us to understand our strengths, we have to look outside ourselves because our ability to understand how competent we are basically doesn't work very well. So what words would other people use to describe you professionally? So think about 3 people that you know well, and if you were to ask them what they thought about you, what are 3 things that they would say? So it could be that I've asked my friend Anna, and I hope that she would say, oh, I always ask Anthea for advice on careers whenever I'm job hunting. Right? Anything like that. What do people generally tend to come to you for? So that's what I want you to be thinking about. And again, feel free to drop that into the chat as we go. But let me start you off with a few examples. So I always ask, and you put your name in there for help with X. It could be that you know a lot about Y, whatever it is. Or it could be that I can always ask someone to, right? So what are the kind of situations that people tend to ask you for specific things because that's how they see you? And pausing for questions at the moment. Doesn't look like there are any questions, so I'll keep moving through. Again, we'll have an opportunity for questions towards the end if you need them. So we're now going to look at that final circle. What is it that that people may value? Now, here, this is an opportunity for you to figure out that value. What is it that other people are essentially willing to pay you for because of what you enjoy doing and what you're good at? Right? It could be something that you skills or knowledge that you can bring to an existing role, or something that you can do when you're hunting for a job. So, for example, data analytics and web development are business areas with the greatest need to address potential skill gaps. So if you have any of those skills, you are more likely to get opportunities to have any type of work, whether it's freelance or employed, because that particular industry or those roles need those skills. IT, supply chain management and financial management are the fastest growing fields. So if you understand or want to work in those particular fields, again, there's a shortage. So go into those areas if you can find what you enjoy doing. So where would you be of value, i.e. what profession, what industry? Who would you be of value to? So which business or what organization? And why would you be of value, i.e. what skills or what skills and value can you bring? So the first part is you think about yourself. What am I good at? What do I enjoy? And then you look outside and say, where can I bring what I have into the job market? So we have a couple of case studies that refer to people who have essentially pivoted in their career so that they can focus on different things. And the main thing here is once you get a very good understanding about what it is that you enjoy doing and understand what gaps you potentially have in this particular scenario, they learnt new skills and joined forces so that they could set up a website. And here is Shaquille took what he was good at and what he enjoyed doing and became a consultant. And because of that, he was able to reach all of these people. So the question I pose to you is, who would value what you're good at and what you enjoy? Who would value what you're good at and what you would enjoy? I'm going to leave that question with you to answer. You don't have to put it in the chat, but I want you to be thinking about this particular question. So let's start with industry. So we looked at some of the kind of workplaces that you might want to be in. And so now let's look at a few of those. You've got things like technology. And again, this revolves around developing and implementing solutions. You've got healthcare, which encompasses a broad range of services like hospitals, clinics, etc. You've got manufacturing, which is about the production of goods such as cars, etc. You've got the financial services industry, things like banking, investment firms, insurance companies, hospitality. So if you're interested in events, travel, hotels, restaurants, that might be good for you. Creative media, creative arts and media, another one if you have that creative flair, enjoy creating something from nothing, anything visual, that might be an industry for you. Then you have education. So again, schools, colleges, universities, and training centers. Environmental industries include things like renewable energy. We have a lot of people who tend to be more interested in the sustainability aspect. So the environmental industry would be great for that. And then you have things like retail. So a wide range of businesses, anywhere from supermarkets to clothing stores or even online e-commerce. And again, these are just a few of the industries that you could explore. But now, when you're exploring them, you're looking at it through a different lens. It's no longer where can I find a job? It's what value can I bring? And understanding those elements of what you enjoy and what you're good at, you can then take that value and bring it into any of these industries. So going back to that original question, where would you enjoy working? That's an important question to answer. Where would you enjoy working? Because if you have all of these industries available and you could potentially find work in all of them because of you understanding your value, the next question is, where would you want to go? So then what kind of business would value you? So think about, the type of organization that appeals to you, and that will help you to reach your goals and ensure that you're aligned to your values. Each business will have its own mission, vision, and values. So as you're going into this, you want to make sure that you are completely aligned. So it could be a startup business. Maybe you're somebody who wants to get a cross section of experience. And because of certain things that you've done, you've got broad experience, and you know that by going into a startup, there are going to be individuals wearing many hats. So it gives you an opportunity to get skills in a lot of different areas, as well as bring your expertise in. This is all about innovation and ideas and products, and again, creating impact. Another option is the corporate side, or going into the big business environment. Generally tends to be quite established. So usually when you go in, there is a very fixed role with a very fixed set of responsibilities. But there's still work that you can do to maximize profits and generate revenue. You've also got things like charities and non-profit organizations. So these are other types of environments that you can go into because their mission is slightly different. They're driven by a mission to serve the community or address a very specific social or environmental issue. They tend to rely on donations and grants to fund their activities. And, in general, most people who work for, charities and non-profits find it extremely fulfilling because they're passionate about the cause that they support. So again, it comes back to, if you're going to go in that business area, make sure it's somewhere you would enjoy working or you align to their values. And then lastly, you have things like government agencies, healthcare, education, transportation, law enforcement, etc. And as they provide services to the public, then they often have specific regulations and procedures to follow. So if you're somebody who knows that you like complete and utter creative freedom, that may not be the place for you. But if you're somebody who really enjoys structure and all of that, then it could be. So again, you may have different businesses that value you, but always check back to, what do I enjoy doing? Because if you're not going to find the things that you enjoy doing there is no point trying to bring the value there, because you will not be motivated to keep it up. So now we have this framework which helps us to understand, what do you enjoy doing? What are you good at? And what might other people value? Now, this is about you taking this opportunity to really focus on what actionable steps can you take to move your career forwards. Now, the first thing is to start looking online. There are plenty of places that you can find jobs, and Google Jobs is a great resource. So you go into the typical Google search and you can type in a job title or something. So graphic design jobs near me. It could be, catering in London, catering job in London. And then what will happen is you'll get a list of all of the jobs across the internet from sites. So it could be from Indeed or Glassdoor or LinkedIn or other websites connected. So once you see that list of jobs that match your initial search query, start to browse. Filter is always a good option. So when I use filters, or when I advise people how to use filters, is start very broad and then work your way in. So remember earlier I talked to you about the non-negotiables. My first round of filtering are my non-negotiables. I'm not going to get a job that doesn't have this minimum salary. I'm not going to get a job that requires me to work outside of London. I'm not going to get a job that is part-time. Okay, so whatever those non-negotiables are for you, you can use those in your filtering to ensure that you're only being shown jobs that potentially match something that you are interested in doing. So then the next part is, if you don't feel like as you are searching through, you find anything that you are remotely interested in, there is an opportunity for you to set up a job alert. So on that third tab, you've got your jobs. If you're logged into Google, you have an option to save them. And then the last one is for alerts. So if there is a specific job title that you've put in and you've applied some of those filters, you get to save it as a job alert. And also ask for the frequency for which it will email you: daily, weekly, instantly. So be mindful of how many jobs you may end up getting, but you can also change it as you need to. So this is a useful thing, especially on things like LinkedIn. You can go through LinkedIn jobs as well. So if you set up an alert, you don't always have to worry about potentially missing out on an opportunity because someone is, or the system is notifying you that something that seems like what you want has come up. So when you're searching for jobs on LinkedIn, before you even get to searching, check your profile. Remember that people will come and look at your profile even when even when it's not in response to a job. So on LinkedIn, one of the things that you can do is essentially have an online CV. So it's like an online CV. It helps you to list things that you've done, where you've volunteered, qualifications you've got, experience that you've got, and essentially you can put each of those roles in there. You can also request things like testimonials. So if you've worked with someone and you had a brilliant time, you can invite them to write something nice about you. And you can also get people to endorse your skills. So if you say that you're great at graphic design, find someone that you've worked with to endorse that. Now, the reason that the profile is important is because when you go in for your profile, there is an option to say that you are open to work. And when you become open to work, there are recruiters who will now see your job profile, your LinkedIn profile, without you specifically applying for a job. This then means that there are recruiters who are looking at your profile and then can contact you and say, I've seen your profile. I think you'd be great for this job that I'm working on. Would you be interested in having a call? This is a great way to get opportunities because sometimes if a recruiter or somebody has specifically found a person, they may not even advertise that job. So you might be getting opportunity to access a job that has not been advertised to the masses. And that's what's really great about this. And again, you can set up things like alerts so that people can, so that you can know which jobs come up that meet your requirements. But again, make sure that you're following the same rules as your typical CV when you're posting on here. Make sure you're using clear, professional photos. Make sure you're including relevant images, and make sure that you have a friendly and professional tone. In LinkedIn, although it's a professional platform, this is a place where you can allow your personality to shine a bit. And it's great for, in terms of the posts that you do. If you are doing anything voluntary, maybe there's a project that you worked on that was really successful, maybe there is something that you've done that you'd like to showcase. This gives you a great opportunity to post on your profile things that you've done and to tag people who are part of that. Now, what the tagging does, and again, you have to be very careful with how you do this, is what it does is it allows you to have your post shown to other people's networks. So again, imagine you did a voluntary event. It was fantastic, and you had all of these leadership skills. You worked with people with maybe mental health challenges, and you organized and facilitated the day, and it was really empowering and inspiring. Capturing some footage around that and writing a post about how great that was, tagging some of the people you worked with on that day, then puts that out there. So if somebody else is looking for a facilitator who works with mental health issues, etc., your post now is visible to so many other people. So you never know whose radar you can get on simply by showing up on LinkedIn. You also have things like freelance job markets or marketplaces. So if you decide to go the freelance route, and to be honest, even though it does say freelance marketplaces, from my experience, I found all three of these advertising permanent roles. So if you are looking for a full-time role, don't be afraid to check on a freelance marketplace because you may also find something full-time and permanent for you there. Fiverr is a great option for your freelance skills, for you to market yourself. Upwork is another great tool, another platform, and Freelancer is also another great platform. So do use these, search for them, and see what opportunities are coming, and also ensure that you have profiles on all of them. So with Upwork, so with all three of them you would bid, but all three of them require you to have a profile. So definitely make sure that you've got that up to date. I know this may be appearing small on the screen. Again, when you come back, note that the link that we have here is valid for 24 hours. So do come back and use the replay, put it on a larger screen, do it in slow motion, make it bigger, whatever you need to do. But what I'll do is explain the concept of how you can move your career forward in a series of small continuous steps. Now, over the next few slides, we're going to look at various frameworks that are used by employees at Google to help you move your career forward. And without any form of plan, it's going to be difficult. Again, walking down the street, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know if I've got there. We really want to be intentional and proactive when it comes to moving ourselves towards our goals. So you don't want to lose steam. You don't want to stagnate. You don't want to, get to a point where you feel deflated and demotivated. And if you're trying to make really big changes very quickly in a short space of time, the motivation to get you to make that change will be good, but then sustaining that after will be challenging. So the first thing to do then is to make a to-do list for your career for every quarter, twice a year, once a year, and a one-off. You can include things like updating your CV, updating your LinkedIn profile, scheduling a career development chat with your manager, exploring learning opportunities, etc. So think of what are all the small steps that you can make in order to move yourself forward. And then once you've made that list, you also want to think about how and when you will do them. So what we tend to do is, I need to do all of these things right now, but realistically, you don't. So across the year, how often do I need to do these things? Now, one thing, and I think depends on, I don't think it matters what industry or role that you have, everyone is looking for leadership skills. In the world that we live in, we need people to be proactive, to be thought leaders, to have authority, and to really be behind something and to challenge that in all that they do. And so think about how through this process you can develop your leadership skills, which will also boost your confidence. So for example, there are a number of things you can do, like asking for feedback from people that you work with, offer to help with interviewing. If you sit on an interview panel, it gives you a completely different insight into what the interview process is like and what people are looking for. And that can only strengthen your confidence and your ability to sell yourself when you are having an interview of any kind. Record yourself teaching something, put it onto YouTube. That helps you to be set out as an expert. Explore opportunities to represent your company, offer to present something at to your company leadership, etc. Remember, even though we've put some example here, your list needs to be unique to you. Remember, not everybody is going to do everything. And as an individual, it's up to you to choose a plan that's going to work for you. And it's 100% up to you to drive that forward. Nobody is going to do that for you. So make sure that you make these things happen. Even if you've got the best manager in the world, yeah, they might check in from time to time, but ultimately it's going to be you who has to do the work. Now we've got that idea, here's a to-do list. How can we put together a basic plan for their career? So the first thing is, what is your development goal? Again, we always have to have a goal. What does success look like to you? And I say to you because sometimes we can go into comparison mode and we say, well, I can't be successful because that person seems to be doing much better than me. But under your circumstances, based on what it is that you want, based on your skills and your experience, You could already be successful, you may not see it. So really define what success looks like to you. Then the next thing is for you to consider the benefits. What are going to be the benefits of this change for you, for others, or the wider business? And then start to lay out the steps and actions that you need to take in order to get there, when you need to take it, and then keep updated on your status as you progress. So what we'll do is we'll walk through one of the examples for the first one. So the goal is to become more analytical and brand yourself as a numbers person. So what are the benefits? Improve decision-making abilities, enhance problem-solving skills, and increase credibility in data-driven roles. Okay, so what do we need to do? Well, I need to enroll in an online course on data analysis. I need to practice with real-world examples or real-world data sets and seek mentorship from an expert. I want to get that done by the end of Q2, and I've not started yet. Okay, so this is really taking the ideas or the thoughts and put them into practical actions that you've got. Next, we want to look at the question template, which will help you to also find your career goals, or use them to start your planning and development. So some of the questions you can ask yourself is, what's the next skill that you want to develop? What's the next experience that you want to have? What knowledge do you want to acquire? And what new responsibilities do you want to have? That will help you to get clear about what opportunities you need to take to ensure these things happen for you. And then for each goal, you need to ask yourself, what do you want to achieve? How are you going to get there? How will you know when you've gotten there? This is about measuring your success. So previously you said this is what success looks like. And therefore you need to know how you're going to measure your trajectory to achieving that success. And then finally, when will it be complete? Always include a due date, otherwise it's something that will just continue to linger. So again, we'll work through that example. I want to become a mentor to new starters in my business. So to do that, I'm going to get there by researching and using available resources to develop my skills. These could be courses, workshop, or books. I'm going to create a learning plan with milestones. I'm going to dedicate regular time to practice and learn. And I'm going to ask for feedback from my supervisors and from my mentees to assess my progress. I'll know when I've gotten there when I demonstrate proficiency in these desired skills, when I receive positive feedback from my mentees, and I see a positive impact on my mentorship on the careers of my mentees. And lastly, I aim to achieve this by the end of the year. Okay, so this is an opportunity for you to put whatever you need to in those particular boxes. So what are some of your career opportunities? This final framework is going to help you to identify your priorities plan. So it rates how important various elements of your work is to you, which, they are likely to change over time. So don't feel like whatever you say now has to be set in stone for the rest of time. This is a great starting point that maybe every 6 months or so you keep revisiting and saying, is this still true for me? So start by listing out different criteria, such as learning new things, things you want to add to your experience, meeting specific career goals, work-life balance, pursuing jobs. It could be a promotion, money, doing interesting work, travel, work-life balance, a desire to pursue an internal or an external job. Whatever it works for you is what you put down. We don't prescribe this. You have to think about what are some of your priorities. Here we go. So here's the list of the ones that I've mentioned. Again, you could have ones that sit outside of this. Now, the priorities plan is, once you've brainstormed some of those priorities, select the top few that you'd like to focus on and rate how important they are in the next 3 months and in the next year. And then take stock of how you're feeling about it. If it feels like, oh, that feels too far away, then maybe that's something that you need to bring closer. If it feels like it's too soon, then maybe that's something that you need to push slightly further out. And so adjust what you need to adjust so that you can change that feeling and feel more motivated and inspired to achieve that goal. So, for example, if your priority is to learn new things, perhaps you'll do that within the next 3 months. In terms of important, it's a 3 out of 5 for the next 3 months, but it's essential that you do it within a year. You feel a bit nervous, but you're motivated. And what could help in the next 0 to 3 months? Well, taking a short course in that field would be really helpful, but within 1 year, you expect to be certified. So going from learning new things to having a very clear path to say, in 3 months, I'm going to do the basics, and then by the end of the year, I'm going to be certified. Makes it feel a little bit better in terms of what you're doing and the speed at which you are doing it. Now, each of these templates can be used together. So figuring out, what is it you need to do? What does that look like? And then how you prioritize it. And the idea is that you adjust it to fit your needs and your goals. If you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, if you are currently in a job, try to reach out to a manager. If you're currently unemployed, consider who can mentor you. There are many places that should be able to offer you some mentorship in terms of career choices, career development, and really having a sounding board for what it is that you think you would like to do, and whether or not somebody else being present can give you some additional insights. So really remember that there are kind of 2 pieces to this. The first is for you to think about those three points. What is it you enjoy doing? What is it that you are good at? And what is it that people may value? And then the idea is that you then decide where in the world you want to take it. What industry, what type of business do you want to work for? And also, how do you want to work? Full-time, part-time, freelance, remote, hybrid, etc. Once you know that part, you can then start to figure out what's the gap between where you are now and your career goal. And that's what helps you map out all of the things that are going to be important for you to do in order to achieve your career goal and that level of success that you're looking for. Once you've done that, you can then map out the necessary steps to figure out how you're going to get there, and then put a plan together that helps you to prioritize it. If you end up having a list of, say, 20 things, it may turn out, again, feels really overwhelming. I feel like, oh my gosh, there is so much that I have to do. Whereas when you get to prioritize, you can look at the things that are most important to you, make a plan for that, and get started on that. And then in 6 months' time or a year's time, you come back, revisit, and then do the next batch of things that will help you to move closer to where you are. Bearing in mind the experience that you've gathered at that point will also give you a bigger insight into whether you are enjoying what you thought you would enjoy, and if the industry or business that you've now moved into is one that you want to stay in. Because you also have to be mindful of that. The fact that if you go into a business or an industry, there is no guarantee you'll like it there. And that's okay. But the fact that you went in there helps you to eliminate that industry and that type of business. So then, therefore, you can move on. Okay. So we are coming to an end. So if anybody has any questions, please do let us know. I think there was a question that Alison has answered. And I think we are good. So lastly, what we would love is for you to let us know how you found today's session. Hopefully it's been a useful dive into how you could go about finding your career goals. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, if you're interested in more training from Google Digital Garage, there are a few ways that you can continue learning. We have the Google Digital Garage website, where you can find out what other sessions that we've got running. And there is also a Google Career Certificate. So if you're thinking that you need a new skill and you want to study and you're interested in things like project management or digital marketing and e-commerce or data analytics or even cybersecurity, please do go and visit the Google Career Certificates. Both those links have been dropped into the chat. But please do scan this QR code or use the URL and let us know if you have any feedback or questions on today's session. Thank you so much for joining today, and a big thank you to Alison for keeping the moderator chat going with those of you who've been dropping comments and questions. And hopefully we'll see you again on another Google Digital Garage session soon. Take care.